Don't you walk on me.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 58 of the Brooklyn Fishing Club podcast. I'm your host, Victor Lucia, founder and president of the Brooklyn Fishing Club. We have a special guest for this episode, Captain Adrian Moeller of Rockfish Charters, who, despite being sick with the flu, calls in to discuss his first season as a full-time charter captain. Plus, Black Fridays landed early at BFC, bringing killer deals on everything, from Biggie hoodies to Striper memberships. And don't forget that code LIFE in all caps for a jaw-dropping 50% off lifetime memberships. All orders ship Monday through Saturday, pronto. And for our awesome podcast listeners, here's an exclusive treat. Score an extra 20% off all clothing orders with the code PODCAST in all caps at checkout. Visit brooklynfishingclub.com now and reel in these awesome deals before they swim away. Happy Thanksgiving to all, and thank you again once more for tuning in to the Brooklyn Fishing Club podcast.
Nah, dude. Yo, we got after it today, bro.
Gotcha.
It was
There's no days.
dude.
There's no days off at Rockfish Charters, right?
No, yo, honestly, man. I mean, I'll take them, but I'd rather work, So
Yeah.
it's, dude, we had a fucking day of all days today, bro.
Really?
I mean, it was it was bananas, dude.
I saw that 50 you got. What was it, 54?
Yo, dude, 52, but not like, oh, it's a 50 pounder. Like, I weighed that shit on an old ass boga grip that's been sitting out for 10 years. So it's actually like heavier than that. You know what I mean? Like I don't like using that boga because because it's always like, pessimistic. Like you think it's like, oh, yo, it's 40 pounds and it'll say like 35, but this thing fucking 52 on it. I was like,
oh my
God. It's the fattest bass I've ever seen, dude. The shit must have had 20 bunker in its stomach.
Oh my God, man. How long did it take to revive it?
It's crazy because it revived like right away and it swam out of my hand. I got it on video. And then this guy is like, yelling for me. That's like in the boat, I don't know, right next to us. And he's like, yo, your fish is belly up. I was like, oh shit. Okay. And then I come over and he's already got it in his hand and he's like reviving it. So I guess it came back up and he goes, yo, that's a 50. I was like, yeah, I know, dude. I was like, don't take a picture with my fish.
Right? Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Like, don't count as you catching it if you fucking get it.
I thought
floating.
Where that story was going was the guy saw your fish floating and just took it and left. I thought that's where that was.
I mean, who knows what he did with it, but he was like, yo, you got to revive your fish. And I'm like, yo, dude, what do you want? Like, it literally like took off out of my hands. Like,
as if you didn't try to revive a 50 pound.
Yeah, dude, that's what he was implying. But I totally, I mean, the thing kicked right off, but it was probably just so fucking full, that it came back up. But he, as far as I know, he revived it. I saw him fucking with it for like 10 minutes.
So do you think there's more bunker there this year than last year?
Well, okay, so this is crazy, dude, because last year I feel like we had like the bunker for longer. Like this year we keep getting like a shit ton of bunker and then they just get completely wiped out. And then we have nothing, like it's like feast or famine. And then it's complete famine for a month. And then they come back with a fucking vengeance, dude. And I mean, look, this week we have so much bunker. Dude, I got hit by a fucking whale.
This week?
Well, yeah, like, I don't know, maybe like 6 days ago.
Oh my God.
Dude, we're just drifting and we have it on video. And all of a sudden the whole boat goes ka-dunk and fucking gets shaken up. And we're like, yo, what was it? And then I guess he came up under the boat and got pissed off and just slammed the bow of the boat with his tail. Thank God it wasn't the motor. Like we were just drifting.
Oh my
and
God.
Like just smacks the shit out of the boat. There's a big scratch all down the side of the boat from it, dude.
Damn,
and
you're probably lucky that's all that it was.
Yo, we're super lucky. I mean, the whale was fine. We saw him like eating bunker afterwards.
How far off the beach was this?
Fucking in 30 feet of water.
Oh my God.
Right off the beach. But there's so much bunker that that the whales just go crazy, and they just going through with their mouth open, and the water's so murky. I don't think they can really see the boats that well, and you know, accidents can happen. So
So are you saying that throughout the whole season, like even during the springtime, the bunker has been hit or miss, or is this just a fall
yeah,
thing?
well, okay, so we had them super thick in the spring, and then they kind of disappeared in the summer when those commercial bunker dragger boats came through. And I've never seen nothing like it. We had, like, you could walk on bunker like from here to New Jersey, and then a week later, there was not one bunker around. And we saw those boats, and I don't know if it was. I mean, they obviously couldn't have gotten all of them, but maybe they took so many that the whole school just took off. I don't know
Or
what
maybe,
happened.
or maybe they like they split the main school and
Something
fragmented
happened.
it, and they all split apart into smaller pods and dispersed. Who knows?
We saw three of those boats, and we had cobia. Like, it was on, and then it was just nothing. And then
Oh, it
they came
sucks.
back, and then the same shit happened again.
So it was the
And then we
boats
had,
then. It was the trawlers.
I really think it was. And then, and now for like 2 weeks, we've had bunker really, really, maybe 3 weeks, really heavy again. But today was like on a whole nother level, man. I mean, yeah, it was just like a wall of bunker. It's like a carpet of bunker on the water. It's incredible.
So
And
speaking
dude,
of,
we had
yeah,
bluefin tuna ripping through them. We hooked a 8-foot thresher shark that's like jumping next to the boat.
today.
It got off. Yeah, today.
Oh my god.
And dude, we get to the spot, and it was just like immediately a fucking 100-inch bluefin with his whole back under the water, just slams right through the bunker. Like, dude, right in front of us. We're going crazy trying to throw a fucking popper
Oh
at it,
my
but it was
god.
just it's just too many, too much bait around. And
Yeah, it's almost like the
that shit
same
wasn't
thing.
happening.
I'm dealing with down here in Florida right now with the mullet run. It's like you would
Oh, that's
think.
still going on?
Yeah, it starts up in around like Canaveral, and then it goes all the way down to Miami. And
Nice,
a
nice.
lot of
I've heard
guys,
about it.
just like chase them, and follow them and stuff. But one thing I've noticed with the amount of bait in the water is, I mean, you would think that it would be pretty fucking easy to just throw out a live mullet and catch like big snook or big tarpon, but they have so many options on the table in front of them to eat. Like it's
Exactly.
like
That's exactly what it
if
is.
they see like one, like even if like you're using like really light mono as the leader, and like they just notice that thing is something's a little off with it. They're like, I'm just gonna go eat the one that looks normal. Fuck this.
And exactly. I think what happened today was, like, we're getting our really big bass using dead bunker on the bottom. And the big bass, I feel like they're lazy, they're full, they don't want to
Definitely.
chase anything, especially when there's that much bait around. But if
Right.
you kind of drag a dead bunker just like right in front of them, if you have a slow drift, they'll go for it. And
I
the
never heard
tuna,
that technique before. Really
it works for us pretty well, and
nice.
with the big bluefins, from what I could tell, like, they weren't eating one bunker. They were probably eating like 12 of them at once. And I just don't see them, when there's not much bait around, just kind of picking off your one bunker.
Yeah,
It's
like
just probably not worth it.
singling out one bait when they're just like, I could just eat like 12 of these at once. Like, why should I circle this fucking weird injured fish? There's dozens
Yeah,
of them
like in
around me.
2020 on that Rockaway Canyon bite, that worked because, I mean, there was bait there, but there wasn't that much bait there. There was,
Right.
like pods of bunker, but not like miles of bunker. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents for why it's not the same as it was back then.
Yeah,
There's just
that's
either
something
not enough bait or too much,
yeah,
but not like the right amount.
right. And that was something I wanted to talk to you about too, because that Rockaway Canyon bite, that summer was so epic. I mean, anybody
insane.
that's listening that participated in tuna fishing that summer, 3 miles off, 3 to 5 miles. Some people are catching them 2 miles off the beach. I mean, that was just,
Dude, we had one in 32 feet of water,
oh
and
my God.
you could have swam to shore. Like, it was insane.
Well, I'm telling you right now, I have this crazy, like Goliath grouper, tiger shark, land based setup. And
Uh-huh.
next summer I'm coming up there probably I'm going to dedicate like 2 weeks, I think towards the end of August. Cause I follow these guys that, use the drones and spot them. Like shout out to Sutton Lynch and shout out to Tim Regan, South Fork Salt. I mean, these guys are flying.
Those videos are sick.
Yeah, and it's like, when those bunker are cruising that close to the shore, some of those videos I've seen, it doesn't. I'm not bunker cruising that close to the shore. When those bluefin are cruising that close to the shore, in those videos I've seen from the drones, doesn't look like there's a lot of bunker around. So I feel like with the right equipment, I'm thinking about. I really don't want to give away my strategy of what I'm going to try to do, but I'm gonna try to fly a fucking kite bait out on this thing. If I can't make that happen, then I'm going to try to just kayak it out like it's a shark bait or something. But, with the kite bait, I don't know. I'm going to be using a lot of tools. I'm going to be using a drone. I want to come up there and be the first dude to get a bluefin from shore in New York.
Dude,
New York
I don't know if you remember this, but in the 90s, there was a Von Stahl ad that had a guy in Montauk Point landed a bluefin from shore with a Von Stahl bass fishing.
Holy shit.
And it wasn't a huge one. I don't know what it was.
Oh, whatever.
Or something.
Whatever.
But like pretty awesome, man.
What do you do after you land a fucking bluefin from shore? Like, how do you top that? Like,
no, you don't. I mean, it was like the kid today. It was his first time ever bass fishing in his life.
Oh, the one that got the 52 pounder?
Yeah. So
he looked so happy in the video, man. I thought it might have been. That was his first striper?
Yeah, it's funny. I was like busting his balls.
He's
like,
ruined.
You suck, man. It's all downhill.
It's over, bro. You might as well start trout fishing.
I was like, you're never gonna top this, like, because I don't know. He had like a dozen smaller fish, and then just that monster, and it was just
it's so cool.
Everybody's jaw just hit the floor, man. It was like, it's funny because I've been fishing for bass like hardcore for 25 years probably, and me personally, I've never had like a legit, I weighed it, that I caught myself 50 pounder. I've had many like 47, 48, 49.
Right.
Back when you could kill them, and I've done all the measuring stuff. I've gotten really close. Maybe I've gotten some like borderline ones, but not like weighed. And we've caught a bunch of 50s on my boat, but they weren't my fish. So for him to get it, like, I was like, dude, fuck you, man. I've been trying to get away from for like 5 years. You get it on your first day.
I don't know, though. It had to feel pretty awesome as a first season charter captain to see this kid get his first ever like real striper, and it's a 52 pounder. It felt
great. Because I get like how special that is.
Right,
I'm
of course.
To, like, explain to him that, like, dude, this isn't normal, man. Like,
yeah. Do not get used to this.
Everybody else on the boat was just like awestruck, man.
Oh man, that's great. That close call with the whale is that's a wild one, dude. I mean, I've seen some
now
videos
I'm like nervous about it. Yeah.
I mean, I remember during that tuna run that we had, there were so many whales that I was almost just waiting to hear a report that somebody, either sunk one while they were like trying to chase after a bait ball or something, or not sunk a whale, like sunk their boat. Cause from what I've heard from like people that sail a lot and like will do like transatlantic, crossings, and people that'll sail from like New Zealand to Australia, like the number one cause of ships sinking is boats hitting whales.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, like while they're on like autopilot at night or something, and they just hit a whale that's coming up for air, and the next thing you know, they're all fucking in the water. So,
dude, like 8 years ago, we were it was just me and my buddy Mike. We were at the Coimbra in my little 25-foot contender with a single motor on it. And
shout out Mike Lee. What's up, bro? He's a good guy.
What up, dude?
Very good dude.
Yeah, man, that's the homie. So it's just me and him, and we're at the Coimbra. I mean, there's a lot of boats around, but just the two of us on the boat, and there's a big bubble feed with, I don't know, like 4 whales that have these sand eels just pinned in. And, obviously, like, you're tuna fishing, you try to get right on top of it, and you really you're not supposed to do it. And, you just get a little like, you don't have a fish yet. You can see them coming up. So we get right on top of it. And dude, this fucking whale, big giant whale, just all of a sudden I see this like little tidal wave behind the boat. I look out of the corner of my eye. and I just see this wave of sand eels coming at the boat and this giant mouth pushing them behind it. And dude, thank God the boat was on. I run to the fucking controls, gun the throttle, and I moved it like in the nick of time. And the thing just goes and just spits out all the sand eels. Dude, we had like almost a foot of water in the boat and hundreds of sand eels. I mean, the thing would have just crashed right into the motor. It's a single motor. We would have been stuck out there.
Wait, so
and dude, everybody, the boat got a square. Everybody gets on the radio. They're like, "Yo, contender, are you guys okay?" Because a bunch of boats saw it. You know?
Holy shit!
Yeah, it was scary, man. So
Wait,
I've had 2 close calls.
So did it scare the sand eels onto the boat, or did it puke
No,
them
no,
up
no.
onto the boat?
Yeah, he was like, he had his big giant mouth open and he was pushing water to try to get more of them.
Uh-huh.
And then I guess he saw the boat at the last second, and then I hit the gas, and then he just kind of closed his mouth really fast, and all those sand eels just went into the boat.
And did his breath?
They went
smell
like over
shit?
the transom. Yeah, it was fucking gross.
Could you smell his breath? Yeah, because I've gone whale watching before, and like one thing I've noticed is, damn, these motherfuckers smell when they open that blowhole, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, but we were just like, dude, what just happened? It was pretty scary.
Have there ever been any other close calls not involving whales? Like I know.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
I had a
I know
real
it happens.
crazy one.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah. So this was so okay, man, this is probably 15 years ago. So I'm by myself in Montauk. I had just bought a new to me Boston Whaler, and it was like my first, like go fast center console boat. And I took the week off work. I bought a triple axle trailer. I go out there. It's like a beautiful September day. And in Montauk, people fish really close to each other. I think more so than like
It's
other
crazy.
places. Because,
it's crazy.
Yeah, because you have something like the Porgy Hump. You kind of have these smaller pieces.
It's like limited space. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just, if you did that shit here, like people would yell at you. But in Montauk, whatever, it's okay. So this guy in a Grady White is coming at me, and this is 11 a.m. Beautiful November day. No reason not to see me. And he's hauling ass. He's got the bow way up. And I kind of realized that, A, he's going really fast, and B, like I can't really see his face. Like he just, had the bow up. So I was like, well, dude, he must see me, right? And then he's getting closer and closer. And I was like, yo, I don't think he fucking sees me. And the boat's off, right? Because I'm drifting Neil. And I had like a split second to try to get the fuck away, off the boat or whatever. And I had just enough time to jump like 2 steps to the front of the boat. He slams into the back of the boat, going like, I don't know, 30 miles an hour, dude. And I get flung 15 feet in the air, fucked my legs up, like slamming him against the rail, and just fell right in the water. I'm wearing full Grundon suit, big boots.
God,
and
dude,
the water's fucking cold.
You might not have come up. That's crazy.
Oh, listen, man, it felt like the hand of Satan pulling me down, dude. Once everything filled up with water, and the current's real strong over there, so I'm in the water. And I was just like, "What the fuck just happened?" And he got stuck on top of my boat, so his boat like went kind of halfway through the Whaler, and it just kind of wedged itself in. So his boat is out of the water now, and my motors, everything's underwater. The whole boat, my boat's lisping, has a huge hole ripped in the side of it, and I'm like just floating in the water. The guy throws me a fucking like a cushion, which I was able to stay afloat with, and then I swam to his boat, and we were all just like, dude, what the fuck just happened? And he's just like, yo, I'm so sorry, bro. I didn't see you.
You're just happy
like,
to be alive, right? Like,
yeah, I was so glad that like my son wasn't on the boat.
Oh
it
my
was
God,
like it
yeah.
could have been so much worse.
Holy shit.
So
yeah.
you got the adrenaline going. I couldn't feel that. My legs were all fucked up, and then I'm like, oh shit, my wallet, my phone, my car keys, like everything is on my boat and it's sinking. So I like jump back in the water to get all my shit. At this point, the boats have like wedged themselves apart.
Have you taken your Grundons off and everything at this point, and you're jumping back in?
Yeah. And I took the boots off, and I jump on. I get back in my boat because I thought it was just going to completely sink. But it's true. Boston Whalers don't sink. It sank like 2 feet and then just kind of stopped.
You really proved that one again.
And thank God I did this. I took pictures of it,
Good.
because I ended up really needing that for insurance later. And then the Coast Guard showed up and they came with like this big like generator pump and started like pumping it out. And it took, I mean, this whole process took hours, and then, they like bandaged up my legs and and then they're like, oh, well, we can't tow this back. I was like, dude, this boat is fucking junk. What do you want me to do? Like, and they're like,
Yeah.
well, you have to like get it back to land. Call sea tow. I was like, okay. Called it marine salvage, not like a tow.
Oh my
And
God.
and
What
they tow
bullshit,
this
bro.
thing. They tow this thing back to land, and yeah, and it was just fucking wild. And then 6 months of like dealing with the insurance and
And what
you
about
know
the dude? Whatever happened with him?
so the
Did they
guy,
drug test
the
him?
all
Like was he
nah,
sober?
nothing.
Like
They didn't do any of that shit.
so he got away
Then the
fucking
guy,
scot free.
dude, check this out. So then the guy is like, "Yo, of course, I'm so sorry. It's all my fault. I'm gonna do the right thing." Da 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 da. Da. The guy just doesn't pick up the phone, doesn't call my insurance back,
Ghosted.
and my insurance is like, "Listen, this isn't your fault, but if we can't get in touch with the guy, this and that." So I was just like, I forget how I got his number, but I was like, dude, I left him a message because he didn't pick up. I was like, look, man, I didn't sue you for fucking damages. I could. I got fucking medical expenses, yada yada. If you don't call my insurance company back by fucking tomorrow, it's on.
Fuck
And
yeah.
he finally fucking did the right thing. And
Oh yeah.
you know,
Everybody always, once you put a little pressure to him with a little lawsuit or a little, whatever,
yeah, but I'm
then
not
all
that guy, dude.
I know, but sometimes you have to be because it's
I
like
know, I
they
know,
leave,
and
they
it's
force your hand. They leave you no choice.
yeah,
Like
the guy's a fucking scumbag. But
definitely.
listen, I got a nice check, and I was able to get my first Steiger craft out of it,
Oh, there you
and
go. So it all worked out
it all worked out.
in a
But it
weird,
was,
twisted
dude, I
life.
swear, I had
Close
PTSD from
call.
that shit for like 5 years. Whenever anybody got too close to me, I was like, ah,
You're like, I'm out. Yeah, you
yeah,
definitely had
man.
PTSD from that one for a minute.
Oh man, yeah,
Holy shit.
but, it was wild.
Oh man. So listen, let's take it back to the beginning for a second. So how did you learn how to fish? Where did your fishing journey begin?
Okay, so I was born in Germany, and I lived in Berlin when I was a little kid, and um, my mom met a guy in the army that was stationed. So she was never married to my dad, and you know, I was born on her 19th birthday, so young single mom, and like she wasn't taking me fishing, obviously, and I didn't have a dad around. And then she met this guy in the army, and they ended up getting married and moving. We moved to Columbus, Georgia, from Berlin, and Columbus, Georgia is like
That's a
compared to
big
Berlin for me
that's a
back then.
big fucking leap,
Listen,
dude.
it was like this kind of like backwater. And dude, I didn't speak a word of English, right?
Oh
So
man.
they throw me into public school, and I was just like, what the fuck? So then, learn the language, and every summer,
Yeah, you say learn
my
the
mom would.
language like it was easy. I'm sure you got bullied a
I
little
mean, when
bit.
you're
I'm
when
sure.
you're 8, it whatever. I don't
Were the kids
I don't
nice to
remember
you?
it being hard.
Were the kids nice to
No,
you at
hell
least?
no,
Oh
no,
yeah, that's what I
no,
thought. Yeah.
no. Oh, dude, I have so many just like bad memories of like she put me in the swim camp at the YMCA, and everybody's wearing what are those shorts, jams, like those long shorts that go over your knees, and I'm wearing like a German speedo, and everybody's fucking laughing at me, like it was bad, dude.
So would you say that
So
you didn't have a very easy childhood?
no, hell no, it was hard, man. But I mean, that stuff builds resilience, though, and
Absolutely.
that's what gives you, the grit and the hustle to succeed later. And we'll get into that, but
Yeah.
but my backstory is just I was young, poor, and different. I just didn't fit into a lot of the places that I first got put into. So anyway, so she marries this guy in the army, really nice guy. He was like my stepdad, and he had his mom and dad lived in Tennessee on this river. And whenever we visited them, we would fish this river, and I really loved that. And then every summer, my mom would ship me back to Germany, to this little town where all her relatives live, and her brothers would take me fishing. We fish for eels and pike and trout, and and it was like the most like idyllic summers. Like it was great, and that's like 8, 9, 10. I would spend my summers there.
That's awesome.
And,
Those formative years where you can spend a summer fishing. I mean, I could totally relate to that. I mean,
dude, it was awesome.
so influential on the long game of life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And kind of looking back at it, that was like my happy place, and really like I really looked forward to those summers. And then,
Yeah.
that marriage unfortunately did not work out. They got divorced. And then for junior high, we moved to Washington, D.C. So,
Oh, damn.
this
So
is like,
had you finally like established like a group of friends and everything, and like were you finally starting to fit in, and then you moved?
Story of my life, dude. And it's like,
Oh man.
So she throws me into, seventh grade public school. I was one of like, I don't know,
God,
like 10 white kids in my school.
As a teacher, seventh grade is fucking tough.
Oh, that's right. You're a teacher.
Yeah.
So you know the deal.
Not just for teachers is it tough, but seventh grade is just, there's something that happens, because I've taught fifth through eighth, and I've had one year where I taught all three, fifth through eighth, when I was teaching phys ed, but I'm not a phys ed teacher. I was just filling in for somebody. But I noticed with the sixth graders, like they come in at the beginning of sixth grade, they're still kind of like fifth graders. They're like super innocent, and like they still listen to you and like respect you. And then somewhere around that springtime of sixth grade, you're like, who are you guys? And then by the time they're in seventh grade, they're just like the meanest fucking people on the planet.
Yeah, dude, that's what it was. And I just, again, I didn't fit in. Dude, I got jumped constantly walking home. And, we lived in a bad part of Northeast DC. This wasn't like the suburbs. Like it was, this is, Marion Barry's the mayor, he's smoking crack. Like DC was fucked up back then. So finally I was like, yo, mom, I'm going to get killed. Like I can't. And she was like, what, she didn't get it. And finally, I convinced her, and she sent me to boarding school in North Carolina in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And that was fucking awesome. So it was like this hippie boarding school. We
Nice.
grew our own food. I started skateboarding, and, finally like kind of met my tribe and like the skaters, and we built a half pipe. And the food really sucked there, because, it was like basically like a hippie commune masquerading as a school.
Eating a lot of quinoa.
And, yeah, all that shit, and so but there was all these trout streams nearby. So I would fish for trout, and then we'd cook them, fry them up. And it was fun to like be able to eat the stuff we caught. And, I got really into fishing while I was there, and, they encouraged it, and that was really nice. And, did that for 2 years. And then for high school, she realized like she was still living in DC that whole time. We moved to the suburbs of DC, to this city called McLean, Virginia, which is kind of like where the CIA is. And I don't know, it's probably like 5 miles outside of DC. And, we lived in this little apartment, and it was nice. Again, I had my skaters and that I hung out with. And then I started getting really into graffiti, and, like sneaking out at night. And, we'd go to DC and, tag up on stuff. And it's funny because the name I picked for my graffiti name was Stren, which is, fishing line. And that was kind of like the beginning of that whole weird transition from kind of like graffiti to fishing.
When did your relationship with hip hop start? Was that after fishing, or was that
No,
when you were at boarding school?
I mean, just like, growing up like around DC. I mean, we listened to, I mean, in DC it was go-go music, and then we go to shows and stuff. And then, like that, like early 90s hip hop. And, well, okay. So,
what was the first hip hop album you bought?
Well, oh man, God, Jesus.
Because ironically, my first hip hop album I ever bought was Hard to Earn, and I know that's what you named Mass Appeal after, was because Mass Appeal, the song, is on that album. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah,
that's where
but
we
that
got the
that
name.
was
Let, let me,
that was my first hip hop album. But what's
well,
yours?
okay. So let me just rewind a little bit, and it'll kind of come out in the story, I think. So anyway, so I'm in McLean. We're skating, we're doing graffiti, and I meet Pat, which was like kind of was my best friend, became like a brother to me, and me and him started Mass Appeal. So when I was in I did my 4 years of high school. I'm in ninth grade, and we would like the skaters would all hang out at like this like giant supermarket parking lot. And I met Pat one day, and skateboarding, and turns out he did graffiti too, and that's there was like a group of misfits that we would all hang out together, and just get into trouble, and, smoke weed, and just do dumb high school shit, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I met Pat, and uh and at this point there were a couple graffiti magazines around. There weren't a ton of them, and it just seemed like people were just kind of putting their friends in it, or just putting like really like pretty pieces in it. And me and Pat were really into like the bombing, like illegal, just do
Yeah.
more, not like the best stuff, right?
Yeah,
So
they were they
that's
were
what we
they were
were
on
into.
some cookie cutter shit. You were trying to do some
Yeah,
gangster shit.
and look, I mean, we just didn't have talent like they did in hindsight, but we were in it for the for the
Gotcha.
for the excitement, like cutting through fences to get into train yards at night. We would paint the DC Metro trains, and freight trains were really big, and we were just about getting up, and high school went by really fast, and then I was just like, I need to get to New York. I don't, however, whatever it takes, however I get there, but I can't stay here. At that point, I had so much graffiti beef, which is kind of like, where you go over each other, and like I would have like just crews of kids like waiting for me outside of my house,
Wow, it
like
sounds
to
really
to, to
familiar.
beat my ass. Yeah, sure. I mean, and it's just yeah. So anyway, I had to get out of DC, right? So I was like, I'm gonna go to New York. I was really into photography, and I managed to get like a partial scholarship because at this point, we still don't have any fucking money. So we're broke. There's no money for college, so I had to get loans. I got a partial scholarship, work study, and moved to New York to go to Pratt. And so I get to Pratt, and then me and Pat are still talking. He's a year behind me, so he's still a senior in high school. And we're like, yo, we should do a magazine, and we were throwing around like dumb names for it. And the Gangstar Mass Appeal song had just come out. And I was like, yo, we should name it Mass Appeal, because the joke is that it's this tiny little graffiti zine. Like it's about as far from Mass Appeal as you could get. And it's funny. My second business, Colossal, was kind of the same premise, but I'll get to that. And, so we name it Mass Appeal, and then neither one of us have any idea how to make a magazine. Don't have the funds to do it, any of that. But Pat was a hustler, and he had when he was little, he got in a car accident, and he had 10 grand like from a settlement. So he put that into it, and he found a printer that printed stuff for National Geographic in DC. And he was like, dude, I got a printer. You just got to make some pages. And I was like, oh, okay. Photoshop. I knew a little bit about it just through photography. And, but, we didn't have computers or scanners or any of that. So I used the computer lab at Pratt. That's why I went to college, Pratt Institute, after hours, and just made some janky pages, not really thinking anything would come of it. And I literally, it's funny, I'm looking at the floppy disk right now. I still have it. It's hanging up on my wall here. It says Mass Appeal. And I sent them
That's
a
awesome,
floppy
dude.
disk
That is
of,
so
of,
fucking
of the
cool.
of the pages. And this is like in Photoshop with like it's not laid out right, none of that shit. So dude, Pat fucking got it printed. I couldn't believe it. So he actually got it printed. I have a copy upstairs. It's like 24 pages. It's super janky. And it's funny, and we did the same shit. We put our friends in the magazine, and that we hated what everybody else did, and followed in their footsteps. But we also put a bunch of just shit that we thought was cool, so it looked different than the other graffiti magazines that were out there. And then I don't know what he printed like 1,000 copies of it, and then we'd go around to stores and try to get them to take it, and we got it into like skate shops and places like up against the wall.
Were
in
you getting it
DC.
in there just for free, just for exposure?
No. We'd be like,
Actually
I don't know.
selling
I
them?
think it was for $5 or something.
Yeah,
And we'd
yeah.
be like,
Okay.
oh, if they, it was everything was consignment, and everybody would just jerk us. And yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, if we made more than like $200, I'd be surprised. But we
Gotcha.
got the first issue out, and
Well, it's
and it's
all
so
about
crazy 'cause
gaining momentum. That's what it's all about. And it's tough to start. And when you lose
yeah,
momentum, it's tough to start
exactly,
it up
and
again. So it
and
just starts with
the
one
ball
little
was
step.
rolling. Yeah, and listen, that's all it took. Remember that there's no blogs, there's no Instagram, like that was like the social media of that world, right? So, um, we started getting mail. People would send us pictures, and people, even though the thing was a piece of shit, people liked it, And then we were able to make a second one. We got a couple like just bullshit advertisers, and what happened then is Tower Records had this really cool guy that worked there that bought all the magazines, and he would like really look out like these little like mini publishers that made these zines, and he was like, okay, I'll take 5,000 copies and I'll pay you guys, almost upfront for them, like basically send them to me and I'll send you guys a check, like before they sell. So and the great thing with the graffiti magazine is all the graffiti kids would just steal it anyway. So, like we would still get paid for it. So, we would kind of make an issue, send it to Tower Records, a couple other little distributors, and then in turn, we'd get a check. And, that kind of, we did 2, 3, 4, and, we'd come out like twice a year or something. And, it was cool, man. We just started getting like better contributors. So I guess what happened was two big things happened in the magazine to kind of get it more mainstream. One, we linked up with my homie Sasha Jenkins, who is just like a freaking genius, and he had a magazine called Ego Trip that was had a little graffiti in it, but was a lot of music stuff. And he's done. He does so many documentaries now. I mean, he's really prolific. So, he was friends with, like a who's who of like up and coming rappers and movers and shakers and whatnot. And, he got like Ari the Rugged Man in it. And we had people like Ricky Powell,
Mr.
Mr.
Cartoon.
Cartoon, Esteban. We had, man, what's his name? The from House of Pain.
DJ Muggs? No,
No.
Everlast?
Danny Boy. Sorry, Danny Boy. Danny Boy from House of Pain.
My bad.
Yeah,
Was
like
Everlast
that
even in House of Pain?
Yeah, I think it was
Okay.
Danny Boy and Everlast.
Okay, gotcha.
And so we had all these guys that would write columns at this point it's like every other month, and they would write columns, and then we got A Life down with it, and A Life was this creative agency in the Lower East Side.
Yeah, they're really big now, but back then were they just getting started too?
Yeah, they were just getting started. They opened up their shop on Orchard Street, and the main guy was this guy Rob Jest, and it was Tony Arnaud, and those guys were awesome, and they were able to kind of take the creative direction and turn it from like this like graffiti music thing to like a real like downtown artsy like cool guy thing.
They cleaned it up.
And yeah, absolutely. And they're just great creative direction, great photography, and they just knew all the right people and were super talented, and kind of turned it into this other thing. And then it really kind of started getting some legs under it. We got real distribution, we got real advertisers, and then me and Pat were kind of able to live like these like mini like media lives where we get free clothes from Diesel and Echo and all those companies, and like Nike would fly us around, or like Toyota, and
free tickets to shows and stuff, and like VIP
all that shit. And we still didn't have any money, but
but it was fun.
We lived like little mini me rock stars, man. It was great,
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun, man. And
what were some of the funnest memories from that time? Like give me like your top, like one or two? Like, what were just some memories that you'll absolutely never forget?
I mean, you know, we would always go to like, you know, trade shows in Las Vegas for like this show called Magic, or the show ASR in San Diego. And, you know, you'd be at like, you know, Playboy parties with Tony Hawk, or, you know, just like, you know, partying at strip clubs, getting into dumb shit. You know, I mean, dude, we were so young, you know,
Yeah.
I was 19, he was 18, you know, when we started it. And, you know, it was just,
That's crazy.
yeah, I mean, whatever.
Bro.
We took full
Oh
advantage of
God.
that shit. And,
I
yeah,
would've
so
too.
it was cool, man. And then, you know, but you know, a tragedy struck too, because then Pat tragically got killed.
Yeah,
And
what happened? I read that, and I wanted to ask you, you know, like, how did that happen, and how did that impact you?
dude, it was fucked up, because it was I just got like it was crazy. My mom called me early in the morning crying and told me that, you know, hey, Pat's dead. And, you know, Pat was like a brother to me. You know, it was
Yeah,
way more than a business
it's
partner.
one of those worst
And
fucking calls you will ever
yeah,
want to get.
exactly,
Yeah.
man. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was just with him last night. He's not dead, you know? And it turned out, you know, we were partying way too much, and he was there was a big snowstorm, and he somehow like wound up. We used to always do graffiti in the subway tunnels, and he somehow wound up in a subway tunnel. I don't know. I think he just had to like piss or something, and a cop chased him into the tunnel and pulled a gun on him, and then he tripped, and then his hand touched the third rail, and he got electrocuted. And
Holy
yeah, I
fuck.
mean, just one of those fluke, crazy bullshit accidents, you know.
Oh my
But you
God,
know,
that's so
it's
it's
like,
like an ironic thing too, because it's like, think about all the fucking trains you tagged. Like,
you know, it's like you only have
oh
so
my
many lives,
God.
right? And
Yeah,
both of us should have fucking died so many. You know, it was
I
just
hear
like
you. Me
that
too.
was just like the Russian roulette, you know, and it got him, man, and it was crazy. And it is just one of those things where just your life just like all of a sudden just does a 180.
How'd you
And
recover from that? Like what did you do after that? Like, I couldn't imagine losing
I
your
mean,
best
I
friend
it
like
just
that.
I just
Like,
went into autopilot, because you know we had this magazine. You know, at that point, I don't know. I think we had like 20 employees, and he had three girlfriends, and I remember I had to like go to tell all of them. Then I had to go identify the body at the morgue,
oh
because
shit.
you know, nobody else was here to do it. And did that, and just like broke down crying at the
Damn,
morgue, because then it like
bro.
really hit me like, this is real, you
I'm
know.
so sorry, dude. That's a
And then
horrible experience. Holy
yeah,
fuck.
man, dude, it was the hardest thing I've ever done, man. And then, you know, but then, you know, had to deal with, you know, the funeral arrangements, and then but then you know, you have all these like, we had everybody from the magazine. They're like,
Yeah.
how can we help? What can we do? You know, we're here to help. Like, we want to, you know. And I was just like, guys, I can't, you know, like I have to do this stuff. Like at that point, I was like very hands on, and you know, didn't really
So you just kept
not so much.
working.
Well, no. So I'm in DC doing like the funeral stuff,
Uh-huh.
and they're, you know, doing the magazine. But you know, before that, I was very like, you know, micromanaged everything. And at that point, I was just like, I can't. You guys get this issue out. And those guys put out to that point like the like biggest issue we had ever done, completely on their own, which was incredible. You know, like I was like, wow, you know, these people like that I didn't even know they had it in them, you know, just came together and made this like beautiful thing, giving me the space to do this. And then I was like, fuck, you know, I don't, you know, I was like, I don't want to do this without him. And you know, his mom, his sister, it was just like a very chaotic year. But um somehow got through it. And then yeah, and then just like slowly
How'd you
like
get through it? Did you just like stay focused on the work? Like, were there some
I mean,
days where you like
I'd love
drank?
to
Like,
say
was it
like
was
I
it like,
meditated or something, but dude,
yeah.
I fucking drank way too much.
Yep.
You know,
No, I
I
feel you, bro.
fucking,
I feel you.
you know, I just fucking,
Self-medicating. Yeah.
I just self-medicated. I
Yeah.
fucking put my head down, tried not to
Think
fucking
about
think
it.
about it. And
Right. Push it
I don't
as
know.
far down as you can, right, and just keep moving.
Yeah,
Right?
which in
Yeah.
hindsight wasn't the worst thing to do, but whatever, just did it,
I
and
mean, in a way, you had to like honor him and keep it fucking going too. So it was like, what
well,
what
I
what were you gonna
talked to his
do?
mom, his
Like,
dad. I
yeah.
was like, yo, guys, I don't want to do this without him. Like, I could go do something else, whatever. They're like, yo, it's his legacy. You have to keep doing it. And it was, I kept it going. And the crazy thing is, like a couple months before that, we had just started our second company with our third partner, Paul, called Colossal Media, which is like these like big painted mural walls. It was crazy because like we had just started that. I remember we were at our lawyers doing the paperwork, and our lawyers like, hey, you guys, you should really make wills. And we're like, wills, dude, we're fucking in our 20s. Like, why would we do that? And he's like, nah, listen, you guys. And we were literally joking about doing it. And it was kind of like, okay, yeah, we should do it. And we were going to do it. And it was like one of those things, like 3 steps down on the to-do list that we never got to. And then it was just like a mess sorting all that shit out later. But
Why? Because his family wanted a
yeah,
piece, and
it was
just
just
got
made everything
it got ugly.
harder than it needed to be. It didn't get ugly, but it just was hard and frustrating. So then, we started this mural business where, again, through graffiti, we're like, okay, we kind of know what like good spots are and how to talk to like property owners to try to paint their wall. And then we had Mass Appeal and Rockstar Video Games did the front and back cover with us. And
Oh,
then we told them about, hey, I think like Grand Theft Auto 2 was out or something. And so we're like, hey, and this is where our third partner Paul comes in the mix. He was living in LA and knew how to paint these big like murals that were like photorealistic, not with spray paint but with paint. And like I don't know, there was like 20 people in the world that knew how to do this, right? Like it was like a niche within a niche.
yeah.
So we were like, me and Pat were staying at his house at a trade show, and we're like, hey, dude, we should do this in New York. I bet we could sell it to mass appeal advertisers. Sure enough, so we took his photo albums, made like a bullshit flyer, showed it to Rockstar, and they were like, "Oh, this is cool. We could do this." So then we were like, "Yeah, we have walls all over New York City." We didn't have a single wall, but then they bought it, and we had to go out and get a bunch of walls. And we didn't know that you needed building permits and all this other shit that we later kind of bite us in the ass. But we went out and got I don't know, a dozen walls and painted these Grand Theft Auto murals on it, and that's what kind of started that whole thing. And then advertising started picking up, and I mean advertising for magazines started going down the tube, and Colossal started picking up, and I just couldn't do both anymore, so I decided to shut Mass Appeal down. And I was just like, like
That was
one of
in
these businesses is on the way up and one of them's on the way down.
right.
And
Which one am I going to focus on, right?
Exactly. There's only so many hours in the day. So I paid off everyone we owed money to, put out a really dope last issue, and was like, okay, I'm going to put this thing on ice. Maybe one day I'll start it up again, but right now I need to focus on clothes.
And what was that, around
So
2008?
yeah, exactly. Well, that was like 2000. Yeah, about that. And then, Colossal is doing really well. We're getting like write-ups in the New York Times, and, getting, like Coca-Cola, Apple, like all these giant advertisers, and going into all these markets, and,
Just blowing up.
just kind of paving the way. And there was nobody else doing really what we were doing. So there was just a lot of just virgin territory for us to pick up these leases.
Yeah.
Like nobody had stuff in Williamsburg, and we just locked it down, and in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and
Yeah.
then I mean, we were in Miami, San Francisco, LA, all over the place. So we did these big murals everywhere, and just kept running that. And then Sasha kind of, I was still in touch with, so Sasha Jenkins reaches out to me and is like, hey, and I was always like, hey, Sasha, if ever, maybe we'll start this thing up again, kind of keep it in the back of your head. So this is like 2 or 3 years later, and he's like, hey, dude, I think I might have somebody to invest in Mass Appeal that wants to start it up again. So at this point, nobody told me that it was Nas. it was this guy, Peter from this record label, Decon. And
Yeah, they're a pretty big indie label, right?
yeah,
Were they
you
at the
know,
time, or were they just like getting started?
yeah, no, I think they were decently big, and they were doing like some creative agency stuff too, and but Sasha was involved, and I'm like, yo, Sasha's a genius, bro, anything you want to do, man. And he was like, dude, I want to buy Mass Appeal from you. And I was like, okay, I don't really have anything to sell. The trademark's expired. Like literally, I had a bunch of those big like backup hard drives, and
Yeah.
I didn't even have like the power cords for them. Like
Oh
that's
man.
the assets that I
That's
had.
how much dust was on the
Yeah, no,
gold.
it was like out of sight, out of mind. So um, we worked out a price. I kept a little tiny piece of it, and then they bought it, and then it took a while, but they were able to get the trademarks back, um, and they ran with it. And then it turns out, Nas put a bunch of money into it, and with his help and all their other connections, they were really able to blow up Mass Appeal on a different level. Dude, I met Nas once. This is kind of funny. So this is before all this. So we wanted to put Nas on the cover, and we he was going to be in Tampa, Florida. So me and this like really dope Polish photographer named Piotr, um, and this guy Noah, the editor at the time, we fly down to Tampa and we scout out. We just drive right to the hood and find like a real grimy house with like plastic on all the furniture.
Trap house.
Every complete trap house. Everybody's wearing fucking ankle bracelets, and we get this location. I think we gave the lady like $50 to use her house, and was like, yo, Nas, and, the pictures are dope. It was a sick cover. So Nas shows up and is like, what the fuck is this? And all the kids that I can't leave their fucking corner because of the ankle bracelets, like, are like, yo, Method Man. They all thought he was Method Man. And that was the only time I ever met Nas was back when we had him on the cover.
Yeah.
And this is years before the whole sale thing, and
Right.
whatever. I guess he liked it enough to buy it later.
Yeah, you made a good impression, dude.
Yeah, it was funny. I mean, I really made a bad impression, I would think, but I guess he saw the
Wait,
creativity.
why do you think you made a bad impression?
Well, no, because it was so
Because
hood.
you brought him into a trap house?
I mean, yeah.
I mean, come on, dude. He's
studio.
from fucking Queensbridge. I'm sure he felt right at home.
Basically, so the last 15 years, I'm doing Colossal. It's doing well, and I'm a big proponent of hire people better than yourself, have a culture, think like an owner. And at this point, I've got I don't know, 100 something employees. It's kind of running itself, right? I hired a CEO. She's phenomenal. Shout out Kelly. And it's kind of on autopilot, and I have time to fish, right? So I'm obsessed with striped bass fishing. I'm not, partying like I used to. So I need an outlet for the stress and, the anxiety and bullshit from work. So, I'm already fishing like close to 70 days a year. I kept my boat in Montauk, just a striper fish in Block Island at night. And, again, like, the fishing and graffiti similarities, I mean, there's so many, it's like, you sneak out at all hours of the night. It's like this weird subculture with its own language, and you're always you're uncomfortable. You're fucking cold, tired, scared, whatever. And I feel like the graffiti kind of trained me for the fishing in a way, and documenting your work, and it's super secretive. Like you don't give spots away, and and there's just there's a lot of ways like that. One thing kind of prepared me for the fishing, and you don't have to worry about getting arrested fishing, which is really nice too. So we're so I'm fishing
Unless
Montauk
you're
a lot.
Beast River, but keep going.
So I'm fishing out there, and I'm getting really into striped bass fishing. I go on a lot of charters. I meet people, and I met Richie years ago through going on Rockfish a lot, and he became a mentor to me. And I'd always, ask him for advice um, did my thing. I started doing more tournaments and, kind of being like, okay, I'm starting to get like a little good at this, like it's really fulfilling. And then I got into the tuna fishing and, fast forward a couple years and I sell Colossal. So 2 years ago, I sold Colossal um, and was like, okay, what do I want to do now? I did pretty well on it, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll travel, maybe I'll fish more, but I didn't know like what like my like third act was going to be, um, and then shit hit the fan at home. I ended up getting divorced, and it was like, I kind of like had my life mapped out in my mind, and now everything just does a 180. And I was just like, holy shit, what do I do now? So um, I was like, fuck, I got to get a job. I got to do something. And it was great. So I was like, okay, the only thing that I really want to do at this point in my life is something to do with fishing. And I was really scared to do like charter fishing because I was like, man, I'm not good enough. I don't have enough. There's not enough years left. Like, I'm 46. So I was like, it's going to take me 10 years to build something up. What if, right? So, I just, I couldn't like really make up my mind, like what to do. I was like, oh, I could make lure, whatever. I was just like spitballing ideas and nothing really stuck. So then in February, I see Richie puts this Instagram post up being like, I'm fucking done. I've had it. Rockfish is over. And I read that shit and I was like, dude, is this fate or serendipity, whatever you want to call it, right? So I call him up, and you remember I just sold my business. So I was like, yo, Richie, well, how would you feel if I took over Rockfish? And at first he was like, I don't know. And I was like, dude, I get it. I just went through this, selling, your business is like selling your baby. It's like it's your whole identity. And like I was able to come at him from having walked in those shoes, because I had been through it twice now, once with Massive Field, once with Colossal. And it's a huge scary step, because what if you do that and the person fucks it up, and then it was like that's your legacy, and then
Yeah,
it's
and it was
like,
all for nothing.
you
Yeah.
you cringe when people talk about it,
Oh
like
my God, I can't even.
so
Oh yeah,
so
it's
anyway,
like
I
worst
convinced
nightmare
them.
shit. Like,
It really is, so
yeah,
I convinced them. I was like, yo, bro, like you're the fucking goat. I'll never be able to fill your shoes, but I think I could do it a little differently. I've got, I'm energetic, I'm fucking hungry, and I've got these two boats. It would be perfect. Um, it would be an honor if you let me kind of take over. And he thought about it, talked it over with his wife, hit me up. He was like, yo, let's do it. Yeah, dude. So, we, so April 15th, I took over Rockfish. I did it on my boat. I run
April 15th when we took Sway fishing.
well, I mean, that was like our official opening day. Like I closed on the paperwork like a week before that, but
Gotcha.
like pretty much right then.
Wait, so was
And,
that trip with Sway like your first charter trip or no?
yeah, hell yeah, man. That was opening day. That
So
was it.
your first
Well,
charter trip.
technically, that was the second, because I think we did the afternoon. I think we had a morning that morning. That was the first, but yeah, first day.
Wow, that's awesome, dude. So me and Sway were on your first day of trips ever as a charter
Yeah.
captain.
And dude,
That's
I mean, look, it's
fucking
been
awesome, dude.
it's been a fun year.
And look at that. Like, what are even the chances of that? Like, how ironic is that? You're a fucking hip hop head. I'm a hip hop head. I don't know if people listening know, but I used to be a rapper from the age of like 18 until about 24. When I was 19, I did my first track with Be Real from Cypress Hill, and I thought that I had fucking made it. Little did I know how fucking hard it is to make it in that industry, dude. It is like, shout out to anyone who is making a living in the music industry, man. It is like,
Hell yeah.
I don't know what's tougher, the fishing industry or the music industry. Probably the music industry, honestly.
Yeah, probably. But you could probably make more money in the music industry.
Yeah,
But
if you catch the right break or bend over the right desk.
yeah. But listen, I mean, we did our 121st trip this morning. So
That's awesome,
it's
dude.
it's really going well, man. And I tell you, I was really scared that it was going to ruin it for me. And then I was like, yo, if I do this for a living and I have to go every day, that I'm not going to enjoy it anymore. But the exact opposite thing has happened. And I don't get, I thought what would excite me the most, it get me motivated to go is just like getting bigger and bigger fish, because that's what got my rocks off when
Yeah,
I'm just fishing with me and my friends.
right.
But it's, dude, I mean, this sounds really corny, but like I get to make people really fucking happy every day.
It's not corny
And
at all, dude. I feel the
dude,
same way
like
about
that,
Brooklyn Fishing Club. Like when I see someone that just joined the club send me a picture of their first striper, and I like it when they send them to me from the boats too. But like, shout out to Adrian who just signed up for a lifetime membership to the club. He has been grinding from the surf for like months. He's like he's kind of new to the area. He's learning it, but he sent me a picture the other night, uh, you know, at like 3 a.m. where he finally got like a slot striper off of Rockaway, and like waking up to that was like as good as me waking up to myself catching a slot striper. So I totally get it.
hell yeah, man. I mean, and just the vibe on the boat is like a really fun barber shop. We're just busting each other's balls all day. We're laughing all day, and then we get to catch some big fish now and again. And it's just really fulfilling. And it's like I've done the other stuff in my life, and I've had lots of employees and big clients and all that shit. And this just at this point in my life just means so much more to me. And
Yeah.
and I love having the opportunity to have this third act right now. And yeah, it's just it's everything and more than I hoped it would be.
So you mentioned that, I heard you say the word scared, but I feel like you're a type of dude that does not even get scared at all. Like, would you say you more just had like a little moment of like self doubt? Cause like with all the
Yeah, I mean,
accomplishments you've had under your belt already before this, like how could you not feel confident enough to be like, dude, I already did all this other shit. Like you're pretty much an alchemist, like you
no,
create
listen,
gold out
man.
of nothing. So
The,
like, why would you feel scared about doing this?
Well, listen, it's different, man. Like I always like surrounded myself with people better than me, and whatever I did. And
Well, yeah,
so
that's how you have to
every
get better. That's the only way. If you
yeah,
surround
yeah,
yourself
and
with a
and
bunch of fucking losers, you're gonna be a fucking loser. You have to push
and
yourself
it was
to.
always a team effort,
Yeah,
like if
yeah,
we're selling Apple and doing a big campaign for them or something. I mean, this stuff takes like a year, like it's not like it's like me thinking of
no, it's
when
not
we're on the
overnight at
boat.
all. Like,
No, dude, like this morning, we're on the boat and it's like, okay, where do we go? Where's the bait? It's like the buck stops with me. And obviously, shout out to Felix, who is an incredible mate who
shout out
stuck
to
around,
Felix.
who's, yeah, I'm really lucky that he stuck around. And
Fizo.
we're great together. And it's like the two of us, and it's just like, what do we do? Where do we go? And the buck stops with us at the
That
end of the
was
day.
actually a really, clutch. I don't know what to call it, but a clutch thing that happened was that you got to retain Felix, because
Listen, man, things
Felix like
work out.
is like, he was like just as much of Rockfish as like Richie, like Richie was the
Listen,
captain, but they were working hand in hand, so for him to stick around, that, you know I love Felix. Shout out to Felix. I know
hey man, he's got all these skills that I don't have,
he,
right? Like
he is
he's fucking
unbelievable.
funny. He's
Yeah.
extroverted.
Yeah.
He's a big motherfucker. Like I'm not a people person. I'm quieter. I'm more introverted.
Gotcha.
Like he always has a joke ready, or if we
Right.
get
So he'll handle that
if
aspect.
we
You
get
just have to find the
drunks or whatever.
fish. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, there's such great captains out here that I really look up to. People like, John McMurray. I don't need to name drop a bunch of names, but that have been doing this for a long time. And I respect the shit out of. And, if I'm going to kind of play on their court, I want to make sure I can do it to the best of my abilities, so,
Yeah, you want to be a
um,
contender.
yeah, exactly. And, the great thing is, I mean, it's fucking New York City. There's plenty of room for everybody. It's not like, one guy's taking food out of someone else's mouth, and
Right.
that was another big thing with, taking over Rockfish too. I was like, Rockfish, like Richie had customers already, it's not like I'm poaching people from someone else, it's just
Right.
like, it's like the Rockfish crew, um, and, the other thing that I've really gotten into, I went to school for photography and I've always been into, visual arts and design and all this stuff. And, doing like the pictures and videos every day and making my little stupid Instagram reels every night. It's just
They
like,
look great,
I'm having a
bro.
lot of,
They look
dude, I'm
great,
having a lot of fun
honestly.
doing that, man. Like, I didn't think I would, and sometimes I'm like, fuck, I'm so tired. I've been on the water for 18 hours. It's the last thing I want to do.
But the
But after I
people
did
need
like,
the content. They
no, but
need the
it's fun,
content.
man. And I'm not gonna lie, it's good for business, so it keeps the phone ringing.
Of
So,
course. Yeah.
yeah. So,
Especially when you start opening day with me and Sway on the boat. I mean, that had to be good for business.
yeah, man. So,
Honestly, I'm trying to make that a tradition where me and Sway come fishing with you every opening day moving forward.
no, that would be great, man. I
Yeah.
don't know if we could top this your opening day, but
That
we'll do
was
our best next
crazy.
year,
I mean,
man.
that was crazy. I try to go out every time I try to go out fishing. I'm always trying to like keep my expectations super low because any time where I'm like, oh yeah, the wind, humidity, barrow, everything is perfect. Like we're gonna fucking kill it today. Like if I even let that thought pass my mind, I would say 50% of the time I get skunked. So I have to like trick my mind into thinking that like don't expect anything other than a nice day out on the water. And if I can actually convince myself of that, that's usually when I have the best days.
Yeah, and listen, I could give you a quick story like that for us this year. So,
Yeah.
we had a really good run of striper fishing. We didn't get skunked once, and we had a lot of really good days, a couple so-so days, but we always caught fish. Tuna was not the same thing. We started our tuna fishing really strong. I think we went like, I don't know, 9 for 13 on yellowfins on our first day. And we were like, okay, fucking easy breezy. And then, the fish moved and we just couldn't get it dialed in. We had, I think, 5 skunks in a row. And, you know, um, when people are paying you to put them on fit, like the pressure is just like,
Yeah, it's different, right?
it's real, dude. It's like, like by the like third trip, like I would have done anything for a fish. And then, we're fucking hooking them, losing them at the boat, just dumb shit, knots of fucking slipping. The fucking one time the gaff gets ripped out of her hand and we lose the fish and the gaff, like just dumb shit.
Yeah.
So finally I go out with my girlfriend Pebbles, who actually, does all the bookings for Rockfish. I'm really lucky that she's into it and can do that for
No,
us.
she
So
seems like a real keeper, dude. Don't fuck that up.
she's fucking rad, dude. Uh so anyway, so it's just me and her on the boat, and we caught her, last year her first bluefin when it was just me and her too, and it was just no pressure. We get to, this is when the fish were on those squid lumps off a seaside. We catch a squid. I mean, literally in 10 seconds. Put the squid on the hook, hand her the rod. It gets ripped out of her hands. And I was just like, it's a fucking shark. Just fucking manhandle it in. She gets it to the boat in like 10 minutes. And I'm like, holy shit, it's a bluefin. Fucking get a gaff in it. Boom, done. I mean, we're literally like, for when the fucking motors turned off, we had the fish taking pictures of it, was maybe 30 minutes. And it's just funny because we had, 14, 15-hour days, 5 of them not coming home with a fish. And it's just like you said, when the pressure's off, you don't overthink it. You just fucking relax and do what you know how to do. You get results. So that was a nice lesson for us this year too. And after that, we started sticking them almost every trip that we went. So
Nice.
it was nice, man.
Why do you think we haven't seen another bluefin run like we did in 2020? Or was it 2021? What, 2021.
Yeah, it was. So what I think happened is, well, we kind of touched on it, but I think that year we had the perfect mix of a lot of bait, but not too much bait. So, you know, either now it's like feast or famine. We have, like miles of bunker, which yeah, sure, the bluefin do rip through it here and again, but they're not as easy to catch because there's all the bait in the world. Why would they, pick
Right.
your
Yeah.
bait out of that?
Right. I remember
And
this.
it,
So
yeah, yeah.
so have
Go ahead.
people still been catching them inshore? Like, are people
Yeah,
keeping
I
it
mean,
on the low? Like one or
a couple
two,
guys are getting them.
but
A couple guys are
nothing
getting
like
them.
we had that one year, right?
No, hell no, hell no.
Yeah. You think that was a once in a lifetime bite?
Well,
Like what?
here's the
Like
weird
once in
thing.
100 years, something like that.
So check this out. I mean, yeah, I mean, I doubt was for sure, but this year we had the Seaside Lump squid bite, which was, other than it being squid, not bunker, was very similar. 200 boats,
But
and
you're saying like Seaside
maybe
Heights, New Jersey, right? Like you had to
yeah,
drive.
yes,
Yeah.
Seaside Lumps. Mhm.
Yeah. So this wasn't.
And
These weren't New York City bluefin. Like,
no, but but it was the same kind of class of fish. I mean, a little
gotcha.
smaller. These were like,
Gotcha.
maybe 50-inch fish, but it was the same thing where like this giant fleet of boats that you would think would scare everything away. But maybe 1 out of 10 boats every day hooked up. I don't know what the ratio was, but like the good guys would get fish pretty much every trip, and being like bumper to bumper with everyone else up there. So it was they moved in and they stuck around for, I don't know, over a month, so probably a month and a half. So that was similar, but it wasn't as good as the Rockaway thing. I mean, the Rockaway thing was great for us because it was so close too.
Do you remember seeing any trawlers that year? Because I don't. Like,
No, but I think those guys, they have the permits. They're allowed to take a certain amount of bunker
yeah, yeah.
3 miles off every year. And, this year I remember seeing them twice. And at both times I saw them, and like next day or a couple days later, bunker gone. And we had a shitload of bait. And then, it literally just like disappeared. We had cobia for like 2 weeks. They were gone.
Yeah.
It was, and for us it sucked too, because we went from catching 40+ pound bass every day off the ocean beaches to having to run up Manhattan, and eeling in the middle of the day to put a catch together,
Yeah.
which is fun. The first 3 times you see the Statue of Liberty, but the next 40 it gets fucking old.
Yeah, it fucking does.
Yeah, and the fish, there weren't as many of them, they weren't as big, and it was a grind, and I think those bunker killer boats have a lot to do with it.
It sucks. I mean, those picks you get though in the New York Harbor. I mean, you can't beat those fish picks. Like, especially
Oh, it's great,
especially if you're
for
like,
tourists.
that's what I was gonna say. Especially for tourists who are like, they don't really fish, and then it's like, not only do you get to catch this awesome striped bass, but guess what? You can take a picture with the Statue of fucking Liberty in the background. So.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
I felt like we were doing like Groupon trips for a while. I mean, literally, like for like 10 trips in a row, I had the same
Groupon
picture
trips.
of like, people like holding like a bass each in front of the Statue of Liberty.
What are you, the midnight? What are you, the midnight fleet running fucking?
Yeah, yeah, or what is that? The Beast, that big speedboat that drives in circles around it. Yeah, I mean, look, it was. I'm glad we have that, because we have like a fail safe, don't get skunked trip we can do. But I prefer to fish the ocean if we can.
Yeah. So I know when you're a charter captain, you're pretty much, I mean, I wouldn't say pretty much only as good as your network, but your network is very, very important in terms of like the captains you're speaking with on the radio, the people you trust to share intel with. Like, how deep is your network? How important is it to your business? Let's talk about that a little bit.
So obviously, like you said it, it's super important. I mean, without having people to talk to every day, it becomes a big ocean really fast, and gas is $5 a gallon, right? And you need you need people to talk to. I mean, even today, shout out to Chris Walsh. He called me over when
Love
he was
Chris
on a
Walsh.
good
Shout out to Chris.
good
Big
bunker
shout
ride.
out to Chris Walsh. I meant that.
But you know,
He's a funny ass dude, man.
yeah. But you know, it's like obviously, you give back, and I'm a firm
Of
believer in
course.
karma
Me
and
too.
I
Yep.
mean, in anything I do. But so it's like there's 10 guys or so that I talk to every day, and and you keep it kind of tight. And the nice thing was, like, I already talked to a lot of those guys already, just privately, but now I'm able to give a lot more back because I'm out every day as well. So we're able to work together, which is really important.
So Chris is part of the one more cast team, right? He's part of McMurray's fleet, right?
Yeah, correct.
So do you share info with McMurray too? Shout out to
Yeah.
John, fucking legend.
I talked to him today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he's been on the podcast multiple times. He's such a cool dude. I keep telling him he needs to write a fucking book because I think and I know he's not using Chat GPT like some of these other motherfuckers, but his writing on those posts, it's like it gets me so into the post. Like I don't even think he edits it. I think he just cranks this shit out, maybe looks over it once, and he's such a good writer, dude. John, if you're listening, bro, write the fucking book already, bro. Come on, man. So when you're on the radio and stuff, I mean, everybody knows your boat. Everybody knows your rockfish. Everybody knows you know how to catch fish. Everyone knows you go out to catch fish. Like you're going to catch usually, right? So how many boats follow you normally? Do you mind boats following you? Does it get annoying after a while? Like, are there certain people that get a pass? Like, because I know how crowded it gets out there, especially when, the bite is tough.
Listen, I'm not going to lie. I was the guy following other boats in the beginning. It's like you get desperate. And,
yeah, but now you're a charter captain,
and
though.
you do it.
Now.
So, look.
It's different now.
No, of course. It is. And it happens. But the truth is, there's so much that goes into it. I mean, our big advantage that we have is that we get, fresh bait every trip, and we throw a big cast net, and you'll always have a fresh bunker on the boat. I mean, it makes a huge difference. The other thing that I didn't really realize till I started chartering and having 6 people fishing on the boat all the time, having 6 live baits down, or 8 if me and Felix also have a rod in our hands, is like a school of bait. That's like a dredge bar going through, and you will pull fish along with the boat and keep them under the boat. If it's just, one guy or 2 guys fishing and they each have a bunker out, they probably didn't net that bunker. They probably snagged it, so it's half dead already. And it just doesn't have the same effect as this like school of bait going by. So that's, I think, one of the reasons why we're able to catch such numbers. And also, catching big fish. I mean, I'm sure there's little tricks, but it's a numbers game too. If you can catch 50, 60 bass in a trip, chances are that, 4 or 5 of them are going to be much bigger than the other ones. And if you're only catching, 6 or 7 bass to begin with, you're probably not going to get a big fish.
Yeah. Do you have any charter gone wrong stories from this past first season?
I thought it was going to be a lot worse. Only like twice have I wanted to turn the boat around.
Really?
And this is where Felix comes in really handy.
Oh, okay.
So, Felix is, he's a, 6'5", 280-pound Puerto Rican.
Don't want to fight him.
And, but he's like a wise old bouncer, he's really good at diffusing situations.
He's like a warrior sage. He's like,
yeah. And both times have been, when people are just like fucked up, and, we let people drink on the boat. You can drink beer. We say no liquor. Sometimes people bring it, and if you're cool, we're not going to say anything. But we had a couple. One time it was like a couple Russian guys. That literally drank a bottle of vodka. Before we even started fishing, and then they just get really sloppy.
Jesus.
Banging sinkers against the boat. Falling, slipping, and. It's a fucking hazard, and it's like
it's a liability.
Fucking crack their head.
Exactly. Then it's on you.
So that, and then we had a couple guys, this week that just like fucked up on drugs, and it's just like super drunk, screaming,
trying to do drugs on the boat, low key.
They I mean, we didn't see it, but they did clearly were just fucked up.
They
out
were
of their
fucked
mind,
up, yeah. And it was like
And
a whole group of 6 fucked up dudes.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they
Oh,
weren't all fucked up, but a couple of them were, and it's just like,
just
dude,
enough to like fuck with your day, right? Like,
a 35-foot boat gets small really quick when
yeah,
that happens,
yeah,
because now I'm pissed off. At the
yeah. You
same time, I still have
can't
a
hide
charter
it.
to
It's
run.
not like you're up on the bridge and you can like curse and be like, "Fuck these
Yeah,
guys."
and
Like you have to keep a smile on your face, and
you
it's
don't
not
want to
like you
make it
could.
worse just by getting like aggressive and just
Yeah, yeah,
you're laughing
yeah.
along, but you're fucking seething inside, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
And
I fucking hate that. Oh my god.
you, you, and it's just shit like that gets frustrating. But dude, out of 121 trips, two, and again, those were just annoying. They weren't like, nothing bad happened.
Yeah,
So
like they didn't cross any like significant lines. It was just
I,
like they
I,
got too
I'll
fucked up.
take that. Nobody's fallen in the water. Nobody
Yeah,
punched me in the face.
nobody
Like
fell
it's,
into the prop. Like,
yeah, man. I mean, look, it's all good, man. It's listen. I mean, the other thing too that I realized from doing this every day, it's like people don't really come on the boat to catch fish so much. Like that's only like junkies like me and my friends.
yeah,
People
like
for the
us.
most
Yeah,
part charter a boat because they want to, they want a day
get
off
the
work. They
fuck
just want
away
to
from their
relax.
wife.
Yeah, just they want to fucking joke
I'm gonna
around.
edit that out. That's terrible. I like,
No, listen,
but
they
it's
want to joke
real.
around,
Yeah, they
smoke
want.
a cigar,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
It's like it's not
Like
look
the fish,
catching
like
fish.
catching with fish is like the plus for them. They're just happy to not
It's
be
it,
fucking at their regular 9 to 5. They're out on the water.
exactly.
Yeah,
They're there for an experience with their friends,
and
with their
those are like the
families.
ideal clients, right? Like,
Oh, dude, it's this week we've had a lot of this dads with their sons, and that stuff. Because I have a 16-year-old son and a 13-year-old daughter, and it's like
yeah.
to me that's just like really hits home and it's
Oh
special. And
man, I
the kids are so fucking cute holding up the fish and just
stuff.
being
Yeah,
a part of that every day
yeah.
just feels really good.
Oh my God,
And
it must feel amazing. You must, I mean, you go home tired as fuck, I'm sure, but it's like you go to bed happy. You're not waking up
yeah,
like,
no, listen, and I sleep like a baby.
yeah.
It's great, man. I mean, honestly, like, I wouldn't trade this for anything. I mean, I just like to just, over prepare, leave early, triple check everything, make sure you've got the best bait and, just all be really good at consistent at the basics, that's,
Right.
make your own look.
Yeah. So just have all bases covered and, just go out there and do what you do. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And, make it a routine. So you don't really even have to think about it. Like me and Felix have a great routine. I get up at 4:30 every day. I'm at the boat by 5:10 and he's already there and we get everything right. Like, everything's like we're like it's like a mechanical process. We get it
It's
done,
like a
the
fine
same
tuned
way.
machine.
Yeah, it's every day, and we don't forget shit. Again, I mean, we learn shit the hard way. I've learned everything in my life by
Me too.
making mistakes. But like, now, it's not like, oh shit, where's the fucking popping rod or whatever. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
we got it down.
Is there anything that you would do differently next year that you learned from this year that you would like switch up or do differently?
Yeah. I mean, so to go back to that series of tuna skunks. So, I kind of started the year with a little, like a little chip on my shoulder about like, oh, I want to catch, tuna, not bass, or trolling sucks. And so
Right.
I did a couple trips of like what I wanted to do or what I was good at. And, the customers ended up not having an experience as good as they could have because of that. I'll give you an example. Before the Manasquan squid bite really started, a guy chartered me for a striper trip with his 12-year-old son. And I was like, yo, dude, there's all these tunas here. I bet we could hook one. Do you want to do that? Instead, same price. We'll shoot out there. No promises, but they're there. And of course, anybody's going to be like, fuck yeah, tuna, I'll go. And then, the tunas are airing out all around the boat. And I stick a rod in his hand and, he can only cast it like 20 feet, and it's just like, you take for granted that, people have the muscle memory and the experience to do this stuff. And, it was really frustrating because, you know, he couldn't cast far enough. The fish weren't really cooperating anyway. And, I mean, all he wanted to do in hindsight was, bend a rod with his son. And instead we got skunked. And with the added, insult to injury of seeing like dozens of tunas that day, but not being able to hook one. And then, we had a, 45-mile run each way. And anyway, it's just like now when we get, beginners that, don't care or, don't know how to, hold a bait caster or a fish. We're like, hey guys, what do you want to do? You want to troll? We'll put out some trolling rods. And they have especially kids, they have the time of their lives just cranking in a big fish on a trolling rod. And same with the, tuna fishing in the beginning. I love, jigging and popping them, but dude, that's not something for like people that go bass fishing twice a year. So, next year, I'm going to just do, the yellowfin chunking thing. I think it'll be really great. Trolling before that. But chasing them with that, it's not the move for a charter boat with our clientele. I try to like kind of do a little post-mortem in my head every day on the drive home and just be like, hey, what could we have done better? What could we have done different? And you live and learn, and I feel bad for those clients that didn't have like the experience that we wanted, that at the beginning of the season on those trips. But you live and learn, and next year we're going to do it different. And that was luckily, I mean, that was a handful of trips, and
Yeah.
we switched it up. But just always try to improve.
So, oh man, hold on one sec. I just blanked. Okay. So have you had any clients in the past year, any customers that you're just like, you're not allowed back on my boat? Like they didn't handle the skunking the right way. Maybe they mouthed off to you or something like that. Or
No,
did everybody
I
pretty
mean,
much like understand that it's fishing and not catching?
yeah, no. Listen, it's funny. Like on the trips where we have skunked on that handful of tuna trips, like the people were almost like apologetic at the end because they saw that like we tried so fucking hard.
Right.
Like nobody wanted to put fish on that boat more than me and Felix. I mean, I'm running 300 miles, burning a full tank of gas. We're out there for 18 hours. It's just like just burning the candle at both ends. Like,
At that point, are you
really,
like,
really.
at that point, are you losing money? Like, or is it still like,
Yeah, hell yeah, dude.
yeah.
I mean, at that point, yeah. I mean, but it's like
But
you're
you'll do
already out
whatever
there.
you'll do whatever it takes to get the fucking fish, though. That's the point.
Well, I
Like,
mean, it's if it's feasible that we could get, I'm gonna keep trying. And sometimes, it's fishing. I mean, you don't always catch, um, but now that's where experience comes in, your network, and having the right bait, yada yada. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just we try as hard as humanly possible, and all the top people do, even the guys that have been doing this for 25 years. It's like
right.
you want it, just for the sake of like succeeding or winning or whatever you want to call it. You feel like a loser if you come back to the dock with
Right.
nothing. If you could have caught a fish, like look, if
And
they're
you,
just
and
not there, everybody
yeah,
else just asked out too. That so be it. But
but it's
if you're the
probably
one
like,
boat that didn't catch, like
yeah.
that sucks.
And it's probably like you feel like even more of a loser than the dude that just paid you for the trip, because you're like, God damn it, like I let this fucking dude down, and I'm
Oh, dude,
also like taking his money, like,
it sucks, man. Like I feel really bad. I mean,
how do you deal with it?
you know,
Like when you go home
I,
when you go home after getting skunked 5 times in a row, like how does Adrian deal with it?
dude, I was questioning fucking everything, man. I was just like, what am I doing wrong, dude? Like, what the, and but here's the thing too. Like, look, man, I'm 46. I've been on fucking hundreds of charters. Like, how many times I've skunked with the
Right.
fucking top people out there?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's like I know, like I know in my heart of hearts that that's the deal, but it sucks when it happens to you like a couple times in a row. And
It definitely makes you
it's
question
really
everything, and it doesn't matter.
especially if you don't skunk, but you like what then we started hooking them, but like losing them, like that really really fucking
Oh
sucks.
my
And
god.
it's not like
And that's a
it's the
whole other
customer.
level of mind fuckery to it.
You can't rip the rod out of his hand and be like, dude, let me just land it for you.
Yeah,
Like, no, like
yeah.
they're paying you to fight
So
the
you have to
fucking
like
fish. And
painfully watch this Guggen like fuck up a bluefin bite, and you're just like, damn it. Like,
Yeah, and it's not even that they're goons, but it's like who knows? We yell at you to set the hook 3 times, but then they're slacking the line or whatever. It's just like again, you have to
falls into the goon category, Adrian.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, look, we learn by falling on our face, right?
I
And
know. Yes.
you're going to lose fish, but it
Yes.
just sucks when that was like our one shot. We had one guy on the boat. He kept coming on open boat trips. Real nice guy, and we just weren't hooking fish for whatever reason. He hooked 5 tuna that day, 5, and lost all 5, dude.
Oh
and
my
God! For the sixth one.
I
Dude,
would fucking
for the sixth
relapse.
One, Felix was just like, give me the rod, and we landed the fucking fish. But it's like if you've never done it, man, it's.
And a lot of guys give up after like 2 or 3 skunks. They're like, I'm just gonna sell my gear. Like this sport sucks, and it's just like you don't get it then. Like that's not what the sport is about. The sport is about constantly evolving, learning, figuring shit out on the fly, like getting skunked a bunch of times so you can really appreciate that good one when you really finally earn it, So
yeah, exactly.
This shit ain't for everybody.
The bad trips, without the bad trips, you don't value the good ones.
Exactly.
And I mean, listen, our last bluefin trip of the season was, I don't know, probably about a month ago at this point, and it was so incredible. And we had, we doubled up literally the second we got there. It's just getting light out. And, by 10 a.m., we're just releasing bluefin after bluefin. And it got to the point where it just became work cranking them up. Like there were just so many fish there.
Yeah.
And it's like, if it was that easy every day, like it wouldn't be special.
Yeah, it wouldn't be fun.
Because, you lose a lot, because it's hard to get them. That, when you get one, it feels really good. And you have to be a little bit of a masochist to, to enjoy the chase.
Exactly.
It's almost like,
you do.
It's not about the catch as much as about like just testing yourself, testing your own limits, and just trying and trying. And then, eventually you get the hang of it.
Thanks for tuning in to episode 58 of the Brooklyn Fishing Club podcast. Don't miss out on our epic Black Friday deals. Head over to brooklynfishingclub.com today and snag those awesome offers before they swim off. Until next week, tight lines, my friends.
Hey, don't you walk on me. 'cause I worship the